Have you ever had one of those moments, something happens that's so unlikely, so perfectly timed, it just feels impossible, like a glitch in the matrix? Well, today we are diving headfirst into those moments, the unbelievable coincidences that seriously make you question the rules of reality.
So, I want you to take a good look at this quote. It sounds like a textbook description of the Titanic disaster, doesn't it? The unsinkable ship, the iceberg, the tragic lack of lifeboats, it's all there. But here's the kicker. This was written in 1898. That's a full 14 years before the Titanic even sailed.
And this is where it gets really spooky. I mean, look at the parallels side by side. The fictional ship in the book was called the Titan. The real one? The Titanic. Both were called unsinkable. Both hit an iceberg and sank in the North Atlantic. And in both stories, the terrible loss of life was made so much worse because there weren't enough lifeboats. It's almost a carbon copy written over a decade before it happened.
Now you might think that's a 1 in a million fluke, but as it turns out, this whole art predicting the future thing, it happens way more often than you'd think, popping up in some of the most unexpected ways.
And what's wild is how specific these can get. For instance, Edgar Allan Poe wrote a story about a shipwreck where the desperate survivors draw straws to see who gets, well, eaten. A super grim detail that years later tragically played out for real after an actual shipwreck. And it's not just old literature. There was a book about baseball mistakes that cooked up this totally bizarre scenario for a World Series game that, detail for detail, actually happened decades after the book was published.
Okay, so books predicting the future is one thing. But what about when real human lives seem to mirror each other, separated by a century? This is where the coincidences start to feel a lot more personal, and honestly, a little unsettling. The parallels between Lincoln and Kennedy are famous for a reason. They are absolutely mind-blowing. Just look at the dates. Elected to Congress exactly 100 years apart. Elected president, again, 100 years apart. Both were champions of civil rights, both were assassinated on a Friday, sitting right next to their wives, and then, for the final chilling detail, both were succeeded by a vice president named Johnson.
As hard as that is to wrap your head around, the universe of strange human parallels doesn't stop with presidents. Nope. Sometimes the connections are even more direct, and somehow even more tragic. Just take a look at these real, documented cases. Back in 1899, you have two guys, totally unrelated, both named Frank Lamson Scribner. They both die on the same day in the same town. Fast forward to 1975, two cousins, Edward and Edwin Mackenzie, die in separate accidents on the same day in the same city. And then in 1978, two women, both named Mary Smith, happen to die in the same hospital room on the same day. It's like an echo in time.
So, we've had eerie predictions and historical echoes, but now let's talk about beating pure cold hard math. We're talking about odds so astronomical, they seem like they belong in a movie plot.
Let's start with this number, 2. In 2007, a man was struck by lightning and survived, which is amazing enough, right? But for him, it happened twice. Not twice in his life, twice in the same year.
I mean, let's put that in perspective. The odds of getting struck by lightning even once are incredibly tiny. To survive is even rarer. For it to happen to the same person twice in a short span, that just completely shatters our sense of random chance. The probability is just, wow.
And what do you know? Here's our number 2 again. But this time, it's about an insane stroke of good luck. In 2002, someone in the UK hit the lottery jackpot. Twice. So how did this happen? Was it some genius strategy? Nope. It was the simplest mistake you can imagine. They just accidentally bought 2 tickets for the same drawing with the exact same numbers. A tiny little slip-up that resulted in a 1 in millions coincidence and a doubled fortune. So, what does it all mean?
When you hear stories like these, it's so easy to start wondering, right? Are these signs from the universe? Is it destiny? Or is there a perfectly logical explanation for why the seemingly impossible keeps happening? It's a really compelling question, but believe it or not, there's a rational way to break this all down. And actually, once you understand the simple logic of chance, you realize the impossible isn't just possible, it's pretty much guaranteed to happen.
So, first things first, let's just get on the same page. What even is a coincidence? Well, it's just when 2 or more things happen that seem connected, but there's no actual cause linking them. No secret force pulling the strings. They just line up.
And here it is. This is the single most important idea to get your head around.
A 1 in a billion chance feels impossible to you. But there are 8 billion of us on this planet, living out trillions of moments every single day. So with that many people and that much stuff happening, a 1 in a billion event is bound to happen to someone, somewhere, probably dozens of times a day. You know, the truly shocking thing would be if it never happened at all.
Okay, so if it's all just a giant numbers game, why did these things feel so meaningful? Why did they give us goosebumps when we hear about them? Or especially when they happen to us?
Just think about your own life for a second. You're thinking about an old friend you haven't talked to in ages, and suddenly your phone rings, and it's them. Or you go on vacation halfway across the world and run into your neighbor. It feels like magic, doesn't it? It feels like it means something. But what we forget are the thousands of times you thought of someone and they didn't call. We just don't notice the misses. We only remember the hits.
And that's really the final piece of the puzzle. We humans have brains that are basically pattern-seeking missiles. It's how we survived. We're hardwired to look for connections and create stories to make sense of the world. So when we see a bunch of random events, like the Lincoln-Kennedy parallels, our brain can't help but weave them into a story about fate, because a good story just feels so much better than a bunch of random data.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. The next time something wildly improbable happens in your life, and trust me, it will, how are you going to see it? Is it a sign? A little wink from the universe meant just for you? Or is it just a beautiful, random glitch in the massive system of probability, reminding us that in a world this big, the impossible is happening all around us, all the time? Maybe the answer is a little bit of both.